think we're up to a very interesting session that we're about to start. We've got amazing 3 stakeholders that are actually joining us for this session. We will be talking about Saudi Arabia tourism, investment, job creation, and a lot of amazing collaborations that are happening between stakeholders here. So we'll start welcoming my guests actually to the stage. We'll start by Wahdan Alkadi, the Chief Business Officer of Tourism Development Fund. Please help me welcome him to the stage. And we have Cyril, Piaia, who is the CEO of EMAAR, King Abdullah Economic City. And actually, our third guest, we've got Tareq Sadhan, who is the CEO of Riyad Bank. Welcome to the stage. I'll be standing probably, have a seat. Welcome to my guests and everybody who's with us here in the room. Well, actually, yesterday I read an interesting statement after we had our conversation, which felt pretty much, it falls in line with what you're saying. It says, tourism is a bridge of cultural communication. And that's pretty much what tourism really does to countries. But it's also an opportunity to create tourism and investment opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities, and jobs as well in the country, and many partnerships and collaborations, which I think we're about to have a lot of light and shed a lot of light into it. So we're going to start with
travel agents through our trade publication.
Who actually leads, here the business in the Tourism Development Fund. And my question to you is to highlight a little bit on the shift of Saudi Arabia's tourism ecosystem over here, and really to know what happens, in the previous period in a short time. And then we probably also know about the role of the fund in enabling that ecosystem.
Thank you, first of all.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the organizers. It's such a pleasure to be with Cyril and Tareq and this man. So in the beginning, there is a lot of things happened in the last 2 years. Vision 2030 was announced. Through the vision, there is a lot of focus on diversifying the economy, getting out of oil, focusing on other industries that can really grow here in the country. There was a little bit more focus on non-oil revenues rather than, for the last decades, we were focusing on oil. Today, we're focusing on other industries. As a big contributor to the GDP and a big contributor to jobs, tourism is on the top of this. So the first thing that we did, we worked on a strategy, a national tourism strategy that was approved. This strategy has different pillars. The first thing that I want to focus on is the KPIs of this ecosystem. Is really economic. So we focus on number of visits for projects and the country and the sites, etc. We focus on GDP contribution. Today the contribution to GDP and the kingdom from tourism is around 3%.
Yep.
We need to take this up to 10% by 2030, adding another additional 1 million jobs to the industry, direct or indirect. This is part of our KPIs. Together, we started working on the National Tourism Strategy, where we started focusing on the travel purposes that tourists would like to explore here in Saudi. So we went through 12 different travel purposes. We identified 3. The 3 travel purposes were sun and sea, heritage and culture, and adventure. And this is where it all started. We started working on identifying from the destinations that was approved in the National Tourism Strategy, which is Riyad, Jeddah, Eastern Province, Hayr, Al-Ula, Baha, Asir, Al-Jof, Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. All of these destinations, we went through all the sites that can be offered for our tourists. And we came up with the sites and destinations that were approved in the strategy. I'm going to narrow it down a little bit to talk about the ecosystem, which was an outcome of this national tourism strategy. The ecosystem started shifting into something different from what was 3-4 years ago. So the Ministry of Tourism was created to be responsible for all the regulations in the industry, Plus, they're responsible for initiatives such as the e-visa, the tourism visa, and they're working as well, or they worked as well on the classification of hotels, resorts, and apartments. STA, or Saudi Tourism Authority, will work on creating the demand and distribution. So with all the tour operators, the packages comes from STA. So creating the demand comes from STA. TDF, we are responsible for the supply. And I'm going to talk in details a little bit more on TDF. But before I reach there, for the first time in the country, and for the first time in an industry, they decided to do a tourism development council. This ensures that all government entities are aligned. So, as you know, the value chain of tourism is not only about the Ministry of Tourism or the ecosystem. There is a lot of other players, government entities, between GACA, Saudi Airline, availability of flights, airports, capacity. So there is a lot of things. This council is responsible to integrate, to make sure that the whole journey of tourists from reaching the country until he leaves is smooth and it's supported by the ecosystem.
That's a huge vision, definitely, and a huge, options that you've actually gone through, and a lot of work, obviously, to connect, all these dots, I think, together. And maybe it's worth, also looking into the part that you mentioned, earlier as well, that you're really unlocking many areas, in the kingdom, right? So when you look at, the investment opportunities today, would you mind just walking us quickly through the segments that you're actually interested in attracting to the fund today?
I'll talk about two things, if you will.
Yeah, please.
First of all, what kind of support that we give.
Right.
I think this is something very important.
Yes.
The support we give for international local investors. We are a development fund. So we don't focus only on financial. We focus also on non-financial support. So permits, license for the project and our tourism development fund is being secured by us. We're trying to do a one-stop shop for our investors. So anything they need in terms of identifying lands, reviewing feasibility studies, a lot of other non-financial support that we give. Plus the financial. When I go to the financial, this is where we have three different ways of supporting. So we can do debt, which is a big percentage of our portfolio, but we can also do equity, which is something very important for us, a tool that we can use specifically in Tier 2 cities, strategic projects that adds to the GDP, jobs, etc. And the third thing is guarantees. So we do financial guarantees, we do customized guarantees, market shortfall guarantees, construction overrun guarantees. This is part of the support that we give. To go back to your question about which is a very important question, we don't only support hospitality. Today the tourism is really widened a little bit more. It's not about a place to sleep, it's a little bit more. So we're trying to create mixed-use projects and destinations that has F&B, entertainment, hospitality, of course, and we do a lot of experiences such as tour operators, anything that will enhance, again, the tourist journey, we invest in. From an application, from small and medium enterprises, and my pool we support from 50,000 and above, until we go to the large projects up to 1.5 billion for each project. This is what we can support from ours.
That's not just, I think that's a huge, area of support that can be needed for any business, definitely. These are the worries that goes into the investor's mind, and probably you've hinted a little bit to the collaborations and the impact of it, and maybe that takes us to Tareq, in Riyad Bank, obviously, and that's one of the very, early partnerships that happened between, institutions here, between the fund and the bank. And I think we have to attest even within our own, area of entrepreneurship and SMEs, we always hear a lot about, Riyad Bank and the activities that they do and the movements, of supporting such segments. But that's even much bigger over here. So would you mind really highlighting, something about, you have, go ahead, please.
In TDF, we signed with all the banks.
Amazing.
To ensure that we're not competing with banks, we're complementing the offering.
Yes.
Of the day. And maybe one of the stories that Mr. Tareq remember,
yes.
Our first signing was on the Saudi cruise.
Uh-huh.
So we signed with the Riyad. I think this is the first signing on a cruise.
During the COVID time.
I actually see a big smile, Ustad Tareq, here, and that shows that it was a really good meeting, and probably a lot have happened when we heard that the cruise, actually spreading a lot about Saudi, and we've heard it internationally, honestly, about a lot of stuff. So the cruise have done some work as well over here. Please.
We promise that what happened in the cruise stays
in the cruise, definitely. That's the way it is.
No, actually, I'm smiling because in my previous career, I've done many feasibility studies, many tourism feasibility studies, and I would say that the successful rate out of this tourism feasibility study was less than 30%. And I never thought that I'll be an advocate promoting tourism in Saudi one day. But really, what happened in the ecosystem for tourism in Saudi in the last 5 years is amazing.
Yep.
The creation of TDF, the creation of the tourism ministry, and working very hard to make Saudi as an attractive place for tourists, opening up the country, touching on all the strength that we have in Saudi from a tourism perspective, utilizing the Red Sea as a great destination. And on that, I just would like to say that before Ramadan, I had the pleasure to visit the Red Sea project, and it's a mind-blowing.
It's amazing.
I had my doubts when we financed that project, but seeing the success and the progress of that project, it's an amazing. And I can't wait for that project to finish, to spend my vacation there. It's amazing what's happening in the last 3 years. Puts tourism as the top sectors that we talk to our clients when they ask us about where to invest.
Amazing.
It's really obvious that the commitment from the government to support the tourism sector is there. The facilitation from the tourism ecosystem led by the Ministry of Tourism is undeniable. And we've started really deploying money in investment in tourism. To what my colleague Wahdan was saying, yes, we complement each other. We signed 2 agreements on the cruise, one dedicated for SMEs, and the other one for the project finance, the mega projects.
Yeah.
And as an outcome of these 2 agreements, we came up with producing products actually for our customers, and especially for the SMEs. When you deal with SMEs, you always have your doubts about the successful and their ability to execute. And here where TDF jumps and support, in some of the agreements, they provide 90% guarantee to these loans. And to some extent, they go to up to 100%, which makes the banks really comfortable. And that also support in reducing the interest on these projects. The third agreement is for the mega projects, which we are executing. We have extended the support of up to 2 billion so far for the SMEs, and we have a great pipeline of extra demand for tourism projects in Saudi.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And I think you as a bank, with your mindset of accepting that change and dealing with it, right, and really adopting those financial and investment solutions, I think this is...
It's all about the feasibility.
Absolutely.
The first thing that banks or financing entity will look at is the ability to be able to pay back. And the feasibility is showing that these investments will really be seen as successful tourism, people coming, spending, and we are comfortable financing these projects.
That's amazing. So we'll wait for ROIs, and next session, maybe, next year we'll be hearing a lot about executed projects, definitely, and successful stories, definitely. Which takes us, I think, to Cyril, that I've heard you've spent quite a long time, really, in the kingdom and in the region, right? So maybe you can attest to, when you came, maybe, and what you're seeing today. I'm really curious to hear, your point of view of the shifts that you've seen, today, especially that we're talking about hospitality and about tourism.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I would like to thank the TDF and Door Hospitality and Bench event for organizing such kind of event, which shows actually that the ecosystem is moving very fast into the kingdom for tourism. I've been coming to Saudi out of Oman, where I spent the last 15 years. on a regular basis. And I could see the change each time I was traveling. But I would say in the last 3 to 5 years, it's just mind-blowing what's happening. And we see basically that all this ecosystem for allowing investment and development of tourism is there. Yep. So now it's only a matter of bringing investors together with regulators and financing, and the story is going fast. So I'm very impressed by what's happening at the level of the kingdom and at the level of King Abdullah Economic City as well.
Right, and I actually read some headlines yesterday on one of the newspapers about the rebirth of cake.
I like the word, thank you.
Is it? I mean,
yeah, and if you allow me just to backtrack a bit about King Abdullah Economic City, as you know, it's a project that has been there since quite some time. However, what we are doing now, we are changing the strategy of the city. We are opening up the city to third-party investors, developers, and operators. And beyond that, the fact that we have now Piaia on board with 25% shareholding, we are actually no longer a private development. We are a PPP, and we are willing actually to integrate ourselves into Vision 2030. So the nice thing about Cake, as compared to other giga projects, without comparing, is that Cake is a bit in advance with regard to infrastructure. Right. We do have really a world-class infrastructure there. We spend a lot of money in that, actually. And it's like ready-made. It's like vision-ready platform. We are ready to welcome all those initiatives from the government. And we asked actually everyone, those different pillars, and especially tourism, to come over and develop into the city and then roll over those initiatives into the kingdom. So we are very bullish. We do have a success story here with my friend Wahdan and with TDF. As you know, we are developing the Accor project operated by Rixos. It's a massive initiative into the city, 576 rooms with a massive water park. And we have more projects I cannot disclose, but it's really not only on the paper. We are working on a daily basis together to make this happen. And Cake is really the test bed for all those initiatives. We are really looking forward.
Right, right, which is amazing, I think, to hear about all of these news and bringing all of that to Saudi, because that means more attractions, you know, more investments, more interest even from different types of industries to collaborate. And maybe Wahdan, you can comment, I think, on that particular case here in terms of, because we talked about the support for, you know, the major investors, right, and the big mega projects, you know, that are actually done in the kingdom. And I think that's a perfect example to talk about that live partnership that's actually happening in that project.
Absolutely. So I think this is a very good example about our role and our mandate in TDF. Yeah. So as I said before, we don't want to be leading everything. We want to facilitate a lot of things that is happening with the different government agencies or with banks, and we want to make sure that, again, end of the day, the private sector is finding the right opportunities according to the strategy of the National Tourism Strategy. They're finding the right support from the financial institutions, from the different government entities, and I think, give and take, that's exactly what happened in different case studies, even whether it is with Cyril on Accor Rixos project, or with Tareq on Madinat al-Ma'rifah project. I think both of them was the two first projects that we supported in large, and I think it was a great example. After that, there was a lot of appetite from local and international investors into this.
But stories bring, you know, success stories bring others.
I'm jealous now since Cyril's mentioned that success story.
So we're going to have to talk about that story.
And Wahdan mentioned Knowledge City. I think that's a good example to be shared, where we see an intersection between so many Vision 2030 programs coming together to support the vision goals. I think the example of the Knowledge City, it's a tourism project in Medina, and also it tackled the Duyuf al-Rahman program as well, which is a key project for the vision, and also touches on the entertainment side, which is, again, it's a focus area on Vision 2030. And that has tackled actually everything, because we created a fund for investment by Riyad Capital. So we invited investors to invest in the tourism in Medina. And at the same time, there was a financing for that project jointly between us and TDF. It's a mega project that will create hospitality, leisure, malls, and bigger activities for a quality of tourism in Medina. So we are creating a better infrastructure for tourism in a very important destination, which ticks the box for the Youth al-Rahman as well. And that model can be replicated in any other place that we see feasible. And we'll definitely replicate it. Investing in the tourism sector is really promising. We are now considering also opening up a tourism funds for smaller investors to come in as well. And hopefully one day we could float it like the other investments available for trading as well.
I think you highlighted a very important point as well, that you invited investors because you've showed an opportunity, right? And it was highlighted, brought up to the surface, and then suddenly people are excited, and then it's also backed up by multiple entities that are working together to bring it to that. And I think that's the essence of, like, the beauty of investment. There's nothing better than, here you go, that's a ready one. And I'm curious to see how the feedback was when you invited them. Do you see that this is going to become like the next rolling project? I would assume that they will come in without invitation, right, after that.
Amal, the demand on that fund was closed in 2 days.
Interesting.
So people are interested to invest in tourism. They believe in it in Saudi. We have an amazing opportunities in Saudi. So I think everybody knows that tourism is an area to go for from an investment point of view. So we'll definitely replicate it. We'll consider jointly with TDF and other jurisdictions, which we believe it's very attractive for international tourists and domestic tourists as well.
That's amazing, and it's very, very good actually to hear. And maybe, Wahdan, you can highlight more, because I think our conversation yesterday and what I'm seeing here is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration is the key, when it comes to investment. And Saudi have gone, from actually different stages, right? And then the vision kicked off, the speed of bringing all of that to what we're seeing today, where when we travel even today, people are getting curious. I'm getting asked about, is this place, real? Is it really in Saudi? And they showed me pictures, of different areas in the kingdom. And it allowed a lot of people to even, actually stay and really utilize the services and the hospitality opportunities. That's amazing, and it's actually available here. Now, maybe on the fund side or TDF side as well, you've mentioned the support, you've mentioned, the funding opportunities. I'm curious to see, what you're building now and what you're receiving maybe. We've got a few more minutes actually extra. We can dig deeper, on the possibilities that you're seeing today.
Going back to the strategy of the National Tourism Strategy and going into the travel purposes, I think most of the projects that we have today is really focused on 3 different buckets.
Right.
So when I go back to the Sun and Seas, so we're developing a lot of resorts, and when I say resorts, it means it has the hospitality, F&B, water activities, and a lot of other components that is important for a resort. We're developing regional hubs, specifically in Tier 2 cities, where it is needed for locals and for tourists to have these kind of hubs. I think something very important that I miss out is the focus that we have on SMEs.
Right.
I think this is something that I don't want people to be under the impression we only support large and mega projects. But we truly believe that small and medium and micro plays a major role in the success of tourism projects. Today, we're looking into the big projects that we have, and we're looking at how can we capitalize on the SMEs that we have, how can we integrate them in a way or another in these projects. We understand you can build the best resorts, but at the end of the day, if there is no some kind of activities or entertainment or the right F&B offering there, it will not be the same. So we're trying to integrate SMEs projects that we have with our mega projects that we have as well.
Which makes a lot of sense. These big mega projects come and really creates that kind of wave. And I think the small and mediums around will start looking, I can provide supply chain here, I can deal with providing certain labor here, or put a new service or integrate an experience. And I think everything comes together, and that's what we're seeing. And I think we're already seeing that in Saudi, by the way, with the announcements of all of these projects. We see our entrepreneurs even that we deal with, especially at an idea stage, oh, we're building on this, even from outside Saudi Arabia. They're targeting those mega projects as opportunities of learning, and really approaching new technologies, new experiences, even new possibilities, that can definitely plug into that. So you're really creating that kind of pipeline, and those startups and SMEs will come and plug it in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only resorts, I want to go back also, mixed-use projects. We're looking into entertainment standalone, F&B standalone, anything that can, end of the day, enhance the journey of tourists in these specific destinations. That will be something that we will definitely support. Again, I want to go back to the idea of financial and non-financial. So we give financial support through the 3 different buckets I mentioned, but we also give non-financial support. So we have a full dedicated real estate team responsible for identifying lands. So we signed with all the government lands in Saudi, whether it is Mumra, SPGA, Miwa, or Awqaf. We signed to make sure that we identify the right lands. We signed with most of the operators to get preferred terms and conditions for our investors. License and permits through MISA, through our ecosystem, is all part of what we support our investors. So we take investors hand to hand from day one, from planning until execution and operation of the project.
That's amazing. That's red carpet treatment. Yeah. It's definitely, I think a lot of people will be talking to you, after this panel, really to understand more about the possibilities. And that takes me back, again to Riyad Bank and to Tareq, again, and what we're seeing and what we're hearing, opening these opportunities, for SMEs, opening it to investors. You're pretty much, you could be one of the first destinations that the investors would think about. Right, they come to you really. And there's multiple, I assume, checkpoints that they go through before even making that decision. I assume that even in the coming period, there will be more and more waves, coming towards this way. And curious to see that, how do they approach you? How do they come to you? And maybe that's a message really to the bigger investors community over here of how do they really get into access, into such services?
Sure. First of all, Amal, we are very proud to be a leading bank when it comes to serving the SMEs. Riyad Bank is known to be the SMEs bank in Saudi, and we are committed to continue serving and providing our services to the SMEs and enabling them to succeed. In tourism,
word is out, by the way,
by
entrepreneurs and by SMEs. We hear a lot about the service that they receive from the bank.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And in tourism and beyond tourism, actually lately we have opened our flagship center for SMEs here in Riyadh, where it is a one-stop shop for the SMEs. They can go there and they will find everything, even that we're talking to Munsha'at to be part of that center, and they committed to provide their services. They will find a legal support, they will find an accounting support also. The bank is taking care of extending that support for them, at least at the beginning. And they will have a team or relationship managers there helping them in submitting their application to the way that we believe if they do that. So it's an early advising to make their application successful. And then we have our credit team to review that application, and hopefully it will be approved. Also, at the same time, we're working on a full-fledged platform where hopefully towards the end of this year it will be available, where SMEs will be able to go online, submit their application. We are enhancing that platform by an advanced analytics, so even the credit assessment will be automated, so they will get an answer in an instant action. So that's how we serve our SMEs, and we are happy to continue serving SMEs in the tourism sector. We'll be more comfortable in the tourism with all the support from TDF. But again, in any other small and medium businesses.
But that credit valuation and response, is really important, because we hear a lot, when it comes to really checking if the business is viable or if I'm qualified to receive the service. I think when it's instant, at least they're able to know what do I need, where to go, and how do I really prepare
exactly,
for it
and we have a huge track record history of that we can build it in the artificial intelligence and advanced analytics that will give you an assessment for any project.
That's amazing. I think it will be highly utilized, by a lot of startups. And maybe, on final notes on Cake, and the upcoming projects, that you're coming. So I actually lived for a couple of years there, by the way, so I'll tell you later, it was a good experience, actually. So I've done a couple of years there. But I'm really curious to see that now, a lot of people would visit Cake, to spend a weekend, for example, right, to explore a lot of the opportunities, attend some concerts. And I think yesterday we spoke a lot about the events that we're seeing, and happening in Saudi Arabia in multiple levels, right? I'm curious to see, now that with the new projects, there will be more people coming in, right? More intake and all of these residents. That's going to bring more opportunities, right? So I'm curious to see the strategy towards that huge growth, of the city.
Absolutely. Actually, just maybe to say a word about the positioning of Cake. We were seen until now as mainly as an industrial hub. We do have a fantastic port facility. We do have an industrial valley that keep on growing. We signed with Lucid recently. So this is still there. We're going to actually densify and capitalize on that anchor, mainly hopefully by the announcement of the special economic zone, that part of Cake will be really becoming like a kind of very specific entity. However, the rest of the city is aiming at becoming a destination, really a leisure and tourism destination. And our strategy is really to get anchor projects, such as the Accor Rixos one. And those anchor projects are going to act as a snowball effect for the city. A lot of actually business spillover, side event and side activities will come with those anchors. So that's really our aim, to reposition Cake as a leisure and tourism destination.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's happening, because again, there's definitely, there was a lot of waves that were actually paving, that image, definitely. And with all the amazing and exciting, things we've heard today, I'm sure we will be definitely visiting you very soon with the launch of the new initiatives.
Absolutely. And by the way, talking about the SMEs, because that's very important for jobs into the country. Cake is a big city, is a big investor, developer, but however, we do have a lot of, for example, F&B retail that we are trying to push to the local community, and that's part of our aim to support as well as SMEs within the city. So that's very important for us, and we'll discuss later on with Tareq about this. It will be amazing.
Just to add to what Cyril just mentioned on SMEs, I think two things that we're doing a bit different. So by end of the year, or before end of the year, we're launching our business hub. So I think this is a non-financial tool that will support small and micro entrepreneurs to a lot of services that will be a part of the business hub. So coaching and mentoring, training specifically in financial modeling or feasibility study, or a lot of other stuff will be part of this. Offering space for these entrepreneurs will be part of the support that we give. So this will be hopefully before end of the year launched. Another thing we're working on that will be launched also before the end of the year is the investor portal. Something very similar to what Mr. Tareq mentioned on identifying or making it easy for SMEs to interact with us and take instantly whether they approve or reject on the project they propose.
That's wonderful. I think there's definitely lots of questions in people's minds here after the panel, but maybe few last seconds for each one of you to give us either call for action or final words, about what you're about to be launching very, very soon, within your own institution. So would you like to go first?
I'll just say a quick comment. I know that Saudi opened up before the COVID-19, inviting international tourists to Saudi, easing the access to Saudi. And COVID came, then it was a step back. But I think there was an advantage of that. We got to see Saudi. I've traveled during the COVID to Jazan, to Abha, to Luj, to Al-Ula. and it's amazing. So if we are, when we look at our feasibility study or the feasibility study considering international tourists, I think we have a great opportunity also with domestic tourists.
That's amazing.
And human side, I think Saudi has a competitive advantage. We are a very hospitable people.
Absolutely.
People would love dealing with Saudis, and Saudis would love to welcome expats. Cyril is not an expat; he's half Saudi. So I would invite him to comment, but he spent so many times.
And empathy lives in the heart of hospitality, you know, and that's what we see in Saudis. You know, I hear it from my friends who come in. They say we can't really handle all the food. We're invited over breakfast, over lunch, over dinner, and we don't know when we're going to actually sit and diet. But that's what we hear definitely from our colleagues. Cyril, please.
Yeah, first of all, I'm myself a big believer in tourism as a driver of growth for any country. And what I see right now in Saudi is amazing. Just, you start from the beginning, just getting a tourist visa.
Yeah.
It's the first country in the world, I witnessed it, to get a tourist visa in less than 5 minutes online. So these kind of things will definitely fuel a lot of things into the kingdom. Cake wants to tap on that. Yeah. We are into Vision 2030 100%. And basically, we are open for business. We were, before, you know, the gates were closed. We are opening up, so we are open for business.
Thank you so much. Brilliant. Wahdan, final words.
I will pick up on what Tareq was just mentioning on the COVID and the visits on different. Come visit Saudi. This is my final message. There is amazing destinations and sites for every different segment. So if you want heritage and cultures, there is 6 UNESCO sites and there is dozen coming in the pipeline. There is wonderful projects on the sea, whether the Red Sea or a lot of projects that will come up with the Tourism Development Fund. So visit Saudi and decide to invest also in tourism. Yeah, absolutely. This is, we will be your partner from day one until your project is executed. And I'm happy that we have 2 partners here who witnessed the support of TDF, and hopefully more to come with them and with others as well.
That's wonderful. We've witnessed a story of collaboration, I think, on this stage. It's really a pleasure, and definitely investors are coming, startups are coming. We've actually have one of our portfolio from 500, Let's Work, you know, who's here actually talking to a lot of clients and others. So there's a lot of companies, you know, coming definitely to the kingdom and utilizes on all of the openness. Really pleased and honored to have met all of you, to have heard all of these amazing plans. And I think the audience is also optimized, you know, about everything that you're about to come. Thank you so much for sharing everything, and best of luck. Hopefully we'll hear a lot of news about it very soon. Thank you so much.